Alright, testing. Your 6 Nfr distributing valve with the task covered disassembly, cleaning, inspection, repair, assembly, and test. Initial setup toolkit SC49497CL E12. A plumb gauge, gauge black, micrometer, depth gauge, flat gauge, marking pigment, lapping compound, 1000 grit. Material parts: dry cleaning solvent, pneumatic grease, emery cloth, powder graphite, lubricated oil, triple valve oil. Equipment reference, paragraph 348 of Technical Manual 55221022324. Condition description: 6 Nfr distributing valve, remove disassembly. Warning: valve assemblies under a spring load. Use caution during disassembly procedures that the parts down flap out, causing injury to personnel. Note the 2.6 Nfr distributing valve provides increased sensitivity with the brake application release, ensuring the reliability of operation along multiple unit counts. This also acts as a safety valve to limit the brake cylinder pressure with the required standard regardless for the brake pipe pressure employed. When removing and repairing brake valve components, check air lines, pipe lines for the corrosion breaks and splits loose connection. Repair the air lines and piping consists of replacing defective pipe and pipeline connections. Refer to Technical Manual 55221022. 324P with identification of piping. Remove 4 nuts, 1 separate body 2 from the reservoir, 3 remove gasket 4. Remove 3 bolts, 5 top cover 6, and gasket 7. Remove spring 8, remove check valve carrier assembly 9, disassemble check valve carrier assembly 9, remove O-ring 10, pin 11, check valve 12 from carrier 13, remove 4 bolts 14, removing equalizer piston cover 15, gasket 16, 17, remove equalizer piston assembly 18. Alright, this shows your 6 Nfr distributing valve. Backed out one step. Disassemble equalizing piston assembly with the following. Remove 2 lock pins, 2 spring pins, 20, spring 21, slide valve 22, graduating valve 23, spring 24, remove nut 25, follower 26, diaphragm 7, and piston 28. Disassembly, remove 4 bolts 29, slide valve stop 30, gasket 31, O-ring 32, gasket 33. And it shows another 6 Nfr distributing valve picture. Remove 5 bolts, 34, bolt bottom cover 35, gasket 36, remove the large diaphragm piston assembly 37, the disassembly large diaphragm piston assembly 37 by the following. Remove nut 38, follower 39, diaphragm 40, piston head 41, piston spring 42, remove O-rings 43, 44, and piston stem 45, remove 4 bolts 46, cover 47, 3 gasket 48, remove safety valve 49, screener 50, strainer 51, gasket 52, adapter 53, and O-ring 54. Cleaning inspection warning: dry cleaning solvent of PD 680 is a toxic and flammable. Wear protective goggles and gloves. Use only with a well-ventilated area. Avoid contact with the skin and eyes closed, and don't breathe vapors. Do not use near open flame and excessive heat. With a flash point of 100 to 138 degrees Fahrenheit, it becomes dizzy and gets fresh air. Medical aid immediately. In contact with the eyes, made with your eyes, get medical aid immediately. Compressed air used for the cleaning purpose will not exceed 30 psi. Do not direct compressed air against skin. Use goggle full face shield. Use cloth dampen dry cloth, dry cleaning solvent to remove the grease and oil exterior and interior of the body. Use dry cleaning solvent to clean metal parts of the dry with compressed air. Increase metal parts with cracked breaks or cuts and other damage. Replace damaged parts. Check with a spring that has not been rusted because of its distorted, taken, and permanent set. Replace damaged springs, refinishing faces, rubber check valves, tapping pieces, medium weight, emery paper. Caution: do not use metallic tools to clean chokes. Use metallic tools will change the size of chokes and resulting in the failure of the brake valve system. Note: to avoid misplacement of chokes, and remove and replace one choke plug at a time. Cleaning inspection, repair choke plugs, and with the following. Remove choke plug, place in the dry cleaning solvent, and inspect the choke plug patch for cleanliness. Use compressed air, remove foreign matter. Cleaning inspection repair continued. Remove choke plug with a dry cleaning solvent with dry compressed air. With the check with the choke plug is clean with an unrestricted lightly coat threads with the choke plug with a compound consisting of 1 part graphite, 2 parts oil, and install. Clean and inspect. Repair slide valve bushing with the following. Check the slide valve bushing is not scratched or scored. Use plug pot gauge to check the depth of the seat. If the slide valve of the seat is scratched or scored, use lamping compound recondition. Use Russian glue. Gauge blocks. Inspect low points, low spots, or bearing surface. Remove the burrs of the slide valve set. See and re-gauge. Use the depth gauge with measuring clearance groove if less than 5 thousandths of an inch deep. They use a hacksaw blade to recut. Do not cut deeper than 20 thousandths of an inch. Clean the spectrum spare slide valve with a graduating valve and by the following. Check the valves are not scratched, scored, or damaged. Replace the damaged valves. Use a micrometer. Measure the slide valve thickness of the bottom of the graduating valve seat. Replace the slide valve with a thickness less than 549 thousandths of an inch. Use depth gauge. Measure depth of 1/8 of an inch slots in slide valve. Replace slide valve with a depth of greater than 993 thousandths of an inch. Use flat gauge thickness graduating valve. Use the graduating valve with a gauge limiting using lap compound lap slide valve seat by the following condition valve by rubbing slide valve against the seat several times. The lapping compound remove the burrs and remove rough surface marks. Complete inspection continued. Warning: compressed air with a cleaning purpose does not exceed 30 psi. Do not direct compressed air against skin. Use goggles or full face shield. Use compressed air with remove foreign particles from the cavities, gauge, and graduating valve. Regauge the graduating valve. Check the piston is not bent. Use a micrometer. Measure the diameter of 2 guides on piston. Replace the piston if it is deeper than greater than 1 in 733 thousandths of an inch. Use a triple valve lubricating slide valve bushing using silicone grease lubricating oil rings, O-ring grooves, piston valve bushings, which in the piston valve is entered with the use of a clean lint-free cloth. Remove the excessive lubricant. Lubricate rubber check valves, placing them in the box. Dry graphite and shaking in the box. Remove the check valves. Wet excessive grease off and on a piece of chasmos. Assembly. Warning. Valve assemblies are under spring load. Use caution during assembly procedures that parts do not fly out, causing injury to personnel. Install O-ring 54 on adapter 53. Install adapter 53 with a gasket 52, strainer 51, screen 50, sliding valve at 49 into the body 2. Install the 3 gasket 48 with a cover 47 secure with the 4 bolts 46. Use the large diaphragm piston assembly 37 by the following. Install O-rings 44, 43. And on the piston stem 45. Install piston spring 52 with the piston head 41 on piston stem 45. Install diaphragm on the 40 on the follower 39, piston head 41, secure the lock nut 38. Install large diaphragm piston assembly 37 and body 2. Install gasket 36 at the bottom, cover 35 and secure the 5 bolts 34. Install gasket 33, O-ring 32 with the gasket 31, slide valve stop 30, position slide valve stop 30 on the body with the 2 with the screw of the floor bolts 29. Assemble equalizing piston assembly 18 by the following. Install diaphragm of the follower 26 on the piston 28 with the screw with the nut 25. Tighten the nut to 30 pound-foot to torque. Install graduating valve with the 23 with the sliding valve with 22 with the install of the spring 24 in recess with the graduating valve. Install piston 28 on the sliding valve 22. Check with the spring 24. Enter the recess of the piston stem. While holding the slide valve 22 on the piston 20 to 8. Install spring 21 on the stem of the piston. Secure with the 2 spring pins with 20 with lock pins 19. Apply 1 drop of triple valve oil on the slide valve seat with the bushing 1 stop. Drop of the face to slide valve 22. Coat over the entire surface with the oil, equaling initial equalizing piston assembly 18 into the body. Check the bead diaphragm 27 in the position and recess of the body. Install gasket 17, 16, equalizing piston cover 15, secure with 4 bolts 14. Assembly check valve carrier assembly 9. But the following install check valve 12 on the carrier 13, secure with a pin 11. Install O-ring 10 on the carrier 13. Install check valve with the carrier assembly 9 in the body 2. Install spring 8 in the carrier 13. Install gasket 7 on the top of the cover 6. Secure with 3 bolts 5. Install body 2, gasket 4 on reserve 3. And secure with 4 nuts. Alright, to test the 6 Nfr distributing valve according with the test specification MYT460, the 6 Nfr distributing valve functions as follows. Shows the piston diaphragm, equalizing sliding valve, surface and service lap, the position diaphragm, application valve, service lap and service, application chamber, equalizing chamber, charging choke safety valve, supply exhaust, and number 24 double check valve, 2-port 220C brake valve application, piston check valve, safety check control valve, distributing valve with the 6 Nfr distributor. During charging, release the 6 Nfr distributing valve functions as follows. The brake pipe air flows from the outer face of the equalizing piston diaphragm, forcing the piston to slide with the valve to release the piston. Air in the brake pipe flows with the charging choke, equalizing slide valve with the pressure chamber, charging with the brake pipe pressure. In position, equalizing slide valve contents connects applicating chamber with the release number 4 to exhaust. the application cylinder on the outer face of the actual application piston exhaust is V of the passage 2A through the number 24A double check valve passage 26 2 then 4 distributing valve to exhaust. The release spring holds in an application position, release the position against the application cylinder cover. In the inner end of the application piston of the machine with the exhaust valve seat is moved away with the rubber seat with the rubber supply exhaust valve of the brake cylinder passage. Main reserves are constantly present in the chamber with the application cylinder over the outer face for the application piston V with the passage number 226 and number 24A double check valve passage 2A. During the surface brake application, the 6 Nfr distributing valve functions as valve. Brake pipe reduces the difference pressure between brake pipe and pressure chamber. The higher pressure of the pressure chamber, the equalizing sliding valve of the chamber that causes equalizing piston, the slide valve to move upward in surface position with the slide valve with the ports connections are made. Upon the first movement toward the surface position with the graduating valve surface, the communication between the brake pipe and the pressure chamber. Communication between the pressure chamber and the passage 2 is then made with allowing the chamber for the air to flow in the application chamber and to application cylinder outer face for the application position visa passage 2 and 26 24A double check valve passage 2A. Fill the pressure chamber with this connected until the pressure has reduced and slightly below the brake pipe pressure on the opposite side of the equalizing piston. At which time the piston graduating valve are moved to the slab position, terminating further flow of the pressure chamber. Air to passage 2, maximum pressure passage 2, limited with the safety valve with the connector with the passage 2 by safety valve control choke. Pressure is developed with the passage 2 application cylinder outer face for the application piston cover the move of the upward against the force of the release spring fire seal exhaust seat against the underside of the supply exhaust valve, and then raise the valve with the supply seat to allow the main reservoir airflow to the brake cylinder cavity B and passage BC. Brake cylinder air pressure is also built up in chamber C and the interface application piston diaphragm stabilizing choke. As the brake cylinder pressure of the chamber C with approach of the application cylinder pressure for the opposite side of the diaphragm piston, with the application piston is moved downward to allow the supply of the exhaust valve C with the supply valve of the seat with the terminate further flow with the main reserve of the braking protection cylinder. During brake release of the 6 Nfr, they had the typo. Brake valve function in this valve with the increase of the brake pipe pressure balloon with the equalizing piston slide valve with the release position to connection passage application chamber with the exhaust port 4 reduction pressure passage for the application cylinder permits for the higher brake cylinder pressure in the chamber C with the move of the out of the contact exhaust valve C with the allowing brake cylinder to airflow through the chamber B with the exhaust valve C with the atmosphere with the brake cylinder exhaust passage. During emergency application 6 Nfr distributing valve functions with the same manner during the service of the application with additional following. The main reservoir is connected to the port 12 via the brake valve with the emergency valve. The port 12 main reserve with the check valve fitting of the passage 2 pass equalizing piston outer face of the application piston V with the passage 2 and 2B 24A double check valve with the passage 2A. Main reservoir pressure will increase with the valve with the safety valve setting, which is maintained by the safety valve control choke on the blowdown over the safety valve. Shut down the brake valve handle, move to the emergency position. Control passages 2 prevent this escaping the bent pipe number 12 of the check valve. Pipe now number 12 choke valve ensures positive for the pressure relief of the emergency brake application is bailed off. During independent brake application, the air pressure passage 20 to 26C brake valve follow directly to the outer face application of the 24A double check valve with the passage 2A. And that completes our 6 Nfr distributing valve 413.